Winter's always a limiting time for forage in a livestock operation, and today I want to explore the role that sedges, or calyxes, have in filling that stockpile, that winter forage gap in a livestock operation. So let's meet the sedges. So let's begin with what is a sedge, because a lot of people hear the word sedge and they immediately think of something that is not what I'm really after here today. A sedge is a plant that is in the genus Carex, C-A-R-E-X, Carex. And this is a group of plants, kind of like saying coneflowers or kind of like saying asters, but instead we're saying sedges. And so they're a related group of plants, and it's actually a very wide, diverse group of plants. There's like 200 or so of them here in Missouri. So you've got a lot of different species that are related to each other, and they're all called sedges or carex. But if you look at the leaf of a sedge, so I have a sedge here in front of me, and the leaf is often shaped like an M or a W. And so if you take that cross section of it, you can see that it's shaped like that M or W. Okay, so that's one nice characteristic. Another characteristic is that the shape of it is triangular, the shape of the stem. And there's a saying that sedges have edges and rushes around, and grasses are hollow from the top to the ground. But basically, sedges have edges, meaning they're triangular. And of course, it kind of depends on the sedge. This one, by the time I've got it yanked off, actually feels a little more round, but I can still kind of feel the triangularness. But also, if I look at it from the top, I see that the leaves are what they call three-ranked. So there's like three angles that those leaves are coming out on. So you can kind of draw this triangle on the top of those leaves. So how is it that this group of plants fits into a forage operation? How is it that it is important in the winter forage? Well, you can see that it's green, and that's really important in the winter forage because it keeps its quality better. Brown forage, like the switchgrass here, is lost a lot of its quality. And so if we can add some green forage out there, we can keep the protein concentration a lot higher. It's a lot better quality winter forage. So, and actually to have some of this green stuff to mix with some of the brown stuff during the winter can be a great way to go through the winter. Now, you can see it's green, and you might be saying, well, it's green, but what kind of winter have you had? Here just a couple weeks ago, we actually got down into the negatives. So we were at like -5, -10 degrees at night. And so we got pretty cold. Things that are going to brown off should have browned off by this point. And so, like, by contrast, our tall fescue, you know, it has a brown color to the fields. It's not really green. Not to say there's not some greenery to it, but it's got more of the brown than it's got the green color right now. And not to say it doesn't still make good quality stockpile, but this here has got the green colors to it still, even with the weather we've had. Now, sedges can come in, as I said, there's like over 200 different kinds. So lots of different types. Some have real wide leaves. Some have narrower leaves. So over here to my side is one with much, much narrower leaves. They can both make good forage. The wider leaves are probably more preferred, but I've definitely seen them eat both, especially here during the wintertime. The sedges continue to make good forage up and through the spring, and of course, as with everything, at some point they start to lose their quality because they're starting to go reproductive, starting to get a seed head. That's very typical. The switchgrass is great forage in its time, when it's vegetative and just leafy, but of course, when it gets its seed head, it's very, very poor quality. So that's very typical for any plant. But they continue to make that growth on up into the spring, and you'll also get some fall growth on the sedges. So it has that typical cool season growth habit of green up in the fall, grow, and you get this forage production in the fall, the winter, and the spring. And then during the summer, you don't have any forage production really significantly from the sedges. So a lot of times when people think of sedges, they think of wet places. And this spot that I am in here is a little damp. It's a wet-ish spot. Now, obviously, my feet are not wet, so it's not that it's wet. It's not standing water most days of the year, but it is a little bit of a damp depression of an area. And so you can see that there are a lot of sedges here, but this is actually quite a gravelly bottom behind me, and it's not a wet bottom at all. And there's actually sedges spread throughout here. So sedges are not just for wet spots. Now, some species love to be in the wet spots. Some species love to be in a dry spot. I will say, they are more common. I see more of them in wet spots, but they're not exclusive. They're not, only in those wet spots. They're definitely in dry spots as well, and make good forage in either a wet or a dry spot. Now, I want to take a moment to compare and contrast to some other things that people think of when we think of sedges. And one of those is broom sedge. So this is a broom sedge. This is not a sedge. Broom sedge is a grass, not very closely related to a sedge. Here's my sedge that I had picked earlier. Here's the broom sedge. So you can see that this is actually a warm season grass. So it grows in the warm season. So the forage, the foliage down here at the base of it is all brown. It's not good quality. The protein content of it is really low right now. So this is not going to be a desired winter forage, but this sedge is going to be a desired winter forage. So broom sedge, despite the fact that it has the word sedge in it, is not a sedge. Another plant that people commonly think of when sedges are mentioned is yellow nut sedge. Yellow nut sedge is not really a sedge. It carries that name, but it's not a carex. So it kind of has a similar growth pattern, but yellow nut sedge is kind of an invasive, aggressive plant. We're just not talking the same plant there. So yellow nut sedge is really not what we're talking about when we're talking about sedges either. So here we are with a sedge that has been grazed. This is one of the wider leaved sedges you can see, and you can also see the W or M leaf patterns in the cross section, and so I can easily identify that it's a sedge. Bulrushes also have that leaf pattern, but we know we're in that group there. And so bulrushes will fit many of the same conversation, much of the same conversation that we've had today about palatability and winter stockpile kind of forage. So here is our sedge. You can see it's been grazed off. You can see that the livestock like it and enjoy it. And you can see all those green colors down there at the base. So it makes a really excellent winter forage. So here is one of the finer leaved sedges, and I can see that they've grazed it off. Here's a part on the side that they didn't get grazed off. So it has much, much finer leaves, but still makes a good forage. They grazed it off, kind of to the ground level there, and I can see it's already starting to think about regrowing. So that's really good for our spring forage production and here in actually late winter. So today we're just in the end of January. So we've got a lot of winter left, and the more forage we can grow between now and green up, the better. So it's really encouraging to see these plants growing at this period of the year. Because sedges act as a winter stockpile forage, we really like to include them in our diverse native grassland mixes that we design for grazing, because we think they have a lot of applicability. We really like them in our own mixes that we graze with our own cattle. So they also have other purposes for other mixes, whether it's a landscaping mix or whether it's just a restoration mix, whether it's a wildlife mix. They have other purposes as well. But for those diverse native grassland mixes, we sure try to include them when they're available. If you want to learn more about the sedges, you can go to our website and read up on some of them. I'm Elizabeth with Hamilton Native Outpost, and here at Hamilton Native Outpost, a passion of ours is these diverse native grasslands that we can graze with livestock to benefit the environment, to benefit the livestock themselves, and to benefit the soil health and wildlife health.